that whole, like, how do we treat you after you've made the purchase? And we don't just say, oh, now you've bought from us, we're trying to sell you the next thing. It's like, no, now we're trying to help you use the thing that you bought before we're trying to sell you the next thing.
You're listening to Inside Commerce, a weekly e-com strategy, technology and CX focused podcast hosted by experienced digital consultants and re-platform specialists James Gedd and Paul Rogers. Get insights into e-com strategy, leading brands, hear from industry thought leaders and leading tech vendors with practical advice to help you improve your online CX. This episode is sponsored by Shopify. Another interesting guest, another interesting topic. Really happy to welcome Janis Thomas, who's the MD of Look Fabulous Forever. Good morning, Janis. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, James. Thank you for having me.
No, I'm really excited. You know, you're a highly experienced, highly respected digital leader. I've read a lot of stuff that you post in LinkedIn. I know that you do a lot of speaking events around like brand, e-commerce, etc. So I'm really looking forward to discussing it. And also because the business that you're MD of and the market you're targeting is not a mass market. You've got a very specific audience. And I always find these discussions with like the leadership teams of businesses that are focused on a particular demographic really interesting, because I think in my experience, it changes the expectation customers have of your expertise, product knowledge, and that support and care bit. And so we got some really nice questions around some of that, like the brand piece, the loyalty bit coming. So are you ready for a fun podcast?
I am.
So before I start asking you all these lovely questions, I think it'd be really nice if maybe you just give people a flavour of who you are, what you do, and also like, you know, what is Look Fabulous Forever.
Yeah, sure. So I've had a really long career in marketing. I actually started out when I first graduated, I went into retail, but then very quickly moved into media and entertainment, and kind of actually spent most of my career in media and entertainment, publishing, film, music, kind of all of those things. Built one of the first streaming platforms in the UK, did some really interesting stuff, but particularly because I had worked in a lot of subscription businesses, I then transitioned to go and work in subscription e-commerce, because it's a really specific skill set to grow a subscription business as opposed to a regular e-commerce business. And so I have spent most of my recent career in e-commerce because I think particularly for me, I like to make an impact. And media and entertainment, you know, when we built the streaming platform, there were 7 people in a room. You know, you could do amazing things. And now I feel it's very corporate, that I don't think there's that kind of same entrepreneurial spirit, and kind of my passion is scale up. I have no patience for startup and getting product market fit. Once you've got that, then that's when I get excited about growing a business. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. And Look Fabulous Forever, nearly 5 years ago, brought me on to run both marketing and e-commerce, both from a technical and commercial perspective. So I was originally in quite a broad-based role. And then about 18 months ago, we have a separate business that actually manufactures all of our products, and we manufacture for other beauty brands as well in a factory based in Ipswich. And when we acquired that factory business, the existing MD of the Look Fabulous Forever business became essentially the group MD. And then I stepped up to be managing director specifically of the Look Fabulous Forever business.
Amazing. Do you know what? It's lovely to take, because it's so important, isn't it, to know what your passion is and what you enjoy doing and what you don't do. Because interestingly, a part of my journey is to converse to yours, because I decided a good few years back that digital marketing wasn't my expertise. It's not that I find it fascinating because it's such rapid change, but I'm not naturally good at it. And I'm trying to do everything as consultants, not right. So I focus more on the strategy, the technology piece. So I think that's really interesting. So let's now get into some of these questions. Let's start with, you said you like to come in when the market fits defined, and then you can help them scale and grow. That brand is critical to the business, I love the positions. Like, the brand is a movement to celebrate mature beauty, and I think a lot of people listening will be able to resonate with the fact that the market is very distorted to a particular type of definition male and female, of what beauty is and what good looks like. So why, out of interest, why, let's get the concept of this. Why is that needed? Why is a brand like Look Fabulous Forever needed? What are the issues that people face?
Yeah, so I have had conversations with a lot of people who work at beauty brands, and it isn't unusual for mainstream beauty brands to consider an older customer as somebody over 25. That's how focused on youth the industry is. So for us, when our founder Trisha Cusden was in her 60s, she recognized that the makeup and skincare products that she had been using weren't as effective for her, particularly makeup. And she could appreciate, well, actually, this is because this product is designed for a completely different type of skin. And particularly after she's been through menopause, your skin chemistry changes quite dramatically. And she just felt completely overlooked by mainstream beauty brands and retailers. They just were not. They were interested in selling an anti-aging cream, but beyond that, they just were like, well, these products aren't designed for you. Why would you want to wear makeup anyway? So now, if you've ever met Trisha, she is not the kind of person to take that challenge lying down. So she literally started up by Googling makeup manufacturing in the UK. That was literally her starting point. And she went on a journey to work out how to formulate these products in a specific way for women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And how to manufacture them, how to distribute them, and kind of all of those things. And the business has really developed in the last 12 years. So she's 77 now and is still our primary content creator within the business. She writes a weekly blog every week. She produces videos. We take pictures of her, all of those things. So she's still very involved and she has very strong feelings about what we should be doing, and because she is our kind of prototype customer.
Yeah, I think that's really important as well, because authenticity is a word that's bandied about a lot, especially when it comes down to, if we take that very loose word, influencer, but brands that have people who represent the audience that they are essentially marketing to, brings that authenticity with it, rather than I know influencer marketing is broader than that, but it's very interesting to see that dynamic in a brand and still have the owner involved that heavily. So that leads me on to the next question is, and I've seen this in other areas other than beauty, where over 50 shoppers have significant purchase power. And we talked about this before we did the pod about there are various demographics that have really strong purchase power that seem underrepresented in thinking strategically and also in marketing. It's not just like the over 50s audience in beauty, but why do you think, let's put this on with a Look Fabulous lens, why do you think so many brands either ignore it or underestimate the importance of focusing on it better?
Yeah, so I think we have a fundamental diversity issue within our organizations, that particularly people aged 25 to 39 are 20% of the population. But if you think about how much our organizations, particularly in e-commerce and marketing, over-index in that age group, and you compare that to over 50s, which is 40% of the population, but you don't see 40% of organizations being people over 50. So I think there's fundamentally a representation issue within our organizations, that when I was at Birchbox, I did quite a big piece of research that we knew a lot about our customers, because we were doing personalized beauty subscription. We would know, does a customer have long hair or short hair, blonde hair or brown hair, curly hair or straight hair. It was really, really rich data. But in comparison, we knew very little about our potential customers. So we did a big piece of research, like a proper nationally representative sample, to say, right, who could our customer be? And that research came back and it said, right, okay, you've got two key target audiences. One of them you're serving really well. is because she looks like the women who work in your office. She's a young urban professional with a bit too much month at the end of her money. Whereas another target audience who is a little bit older, she's more likely to live outside London, she's more likely to have children, and in particular, she's going to be more financially mature, which means that she can buy from the e-commerce offering and not just a subscription box. And I think that is fundamentally a problem in a lot of organizations, that my customer is like me, rather than looking at data and saying, right, who could our potential customer be?
Yeah, it's interesting. I really find this interesting in terms of the way that data is used, because data's always been important, but it seems like the last couple of years, there's been a greater emphasis around the use of data and data-driven decision-making in e-com, and people are maturing into better use of data warehouse, of data lake, data analytics. But less is done from that, what I'd call the offline data piece, which businesses used to be really strong on. So whether it's using experience, whatever the data sets are, and doing that demographic modeling. So I find it really interesting you're saying that, that often it's that not being able to see past what you already know. Interesting. So that then leads me on to the next one, which is that having spoken to you, not only are you passionate about the business and what you're doing, but you yourself have a lot of detailed knowledge about the challenges your core customers are facing when using beauty products, and that resonates in the wider business. So it's not just people doing a job they're passionate about; it's knowledge and expertise. Where does this knowledge come from? How do you build it? I mean, how do you ensure it's accurate and updated? Because things change, don't they? The science and the knowledge of our bodies changes over time.
Yeah. So for us, there are multiple strands, but the idea is fundamentally we try and seep the organization in information about our customers, whether that is anecdotal or data driven. So in particular, we have kind of two kind of crucial pieces. One is we have a quarterly customer survey. So that's a formal survey that goes out to everyone who's bought from us in the last 3 months. So that is a mix of kind of evergreen benchmarking questions. So for example, we have a very generous returns policy. You can try any of our products, and if you don't like it, it doesn't suit your skin, you don't like the color, whatever, you can return that to us free of charge for a full refund or an exchange for another product or color. So one of the questions we always ask is, do you know that we have this very generous returns policy? But so we have a number of things like that where we ask the same question every quarter, so you can see, right, are we communicating our USPs? What's our NPS score? Are our customers recommending us? Kind of all of those things. We then do specific dips on things that we want to know right now. So, are our customers on TikTok? Do they want buy now, pay later services, kind of specific things? We also do all of our NPD through that survey. So we will ask specifically, right, we're thinking about developing this particular product. What characteristics do you want this product to have? Are you interested in buying it? What price would you pay for it? What would you need to know about it before you decided to buy it? So that before we go into development of the product, we know that we're developing it in the right way for what our customers need it to do. We know that there's enough demand for it that we can produce it at the right margin and the right price for the customer. So we're not making expensive mistakes. We even know how to do the launch marketing because we know what they need to know about it in order to decide to buy it. So we have this very formal survey. And then alongside that, we have a lot of more informal things. Particularly, we have a private Facebook group, which has about 10,000 members. And so every day, like literally all of us have it, on our Facebook that we have that. So every day we're hearing what's going on in our customers' lives, because they do talk about our products from time to time, but that's not the fundamental purpose. That actually they talk about, what's going on in the garden, the holiday they're planning, the birth of a grandchild, even really serious issues around domestic violence and coercive control and kind of all of those those issues. So it really seeps us in what's going on in our customers' lives. So we're not just thinking of them in the context of our relationship with them. We're thinking about them more broadly as human beings with other priorities in their lives. So we have, we also, our customer care team are amazing, and they will, talk about what they're talking to our customers on the phone about. So for example, one of our customer care team had a video call with a customer who had concerns because she'd had a stroke, and kind of how she would apply makeup in a way that would look, kind of look good, and kind of the techniques that she would use or have you. And so, Julie shared this with the rest of the team, and we said, oh, that would be really interesting to create some content on. So we have these kind of very formal things going on alongside much more informal, always on stuff.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of the fact that there would be that deeper bond piece, because I guess that comes back to the trust and authenticity thing is building that bond and that care. It's not just selling products. You sell products as a result of actually caring about your audience and providing them a level of customer experience that makes them feel happy and I guess supported. Yeah, very interesting. And I know that you talked a lot about the educational angle being important, and you invest in content like YouTube videos. How important is that? How much of a focus within your content is the educational thing?
Yeah, it's a fundamental of what we do, because not only are the products you need as you get older different, but how you use them. So for example, eyeliner, yes, you need, you need a different product that's going to leave a much softer line, is much more blendable, kind of all of those things. But also the technique that you would use to apply it in a flattering way is completely different when you're 75 than when you're 25. And kind of part of the thing that we do is we provide this content that isn't out there for our customers, because 90% of the content is 18-year-old YouTubers, kind of and TikTokers kind of doing this content rather than our target demographic. So there's a real need for it. But from a business and commercial perspective, when we talk to our most high value customers, our most loyal customers, people who've bought from us literally 50, 100 times, all of them say the same thing. We discovered you first through your YouTube videos. And I started using I wasn't buying your products, but I started using the techniques that you recommended, and I found that I looked a lot better. And over time, I came to trust you. And then I went on to buy your products, and kind of, I still watch your YouTube videos today. So for us, like, YouTube is the biggest gateway to building relationship with a customer, because we're providing useful and helpful content. They come to trust us and see that we know that what we're talking about, and then over time we'll win them as a customer.
And actually, how do you manage that? Do you do everything production in-house yourselves, and like, do you have a dedicated specialist YouTube marketer who runs it?
Yes, so we do all of our content production in-house. We have a team of 2 running brand and content, and they are responsible for everything. So that is video production, that is photography, that is website design, that is website copy. It is everything. And they do, both our organic social and our paid social. And for me, actually, that depth of experience and that depth of understanding of our customer, and it all ties together. So for example, one of the questions we always ask in our research surveys is, which of our videos have you found particularly helpful? What would you like to see from us in future? Kind of all of those things. So it's a very holistic process, rather than being like, oh, this is something that, we have a video production expert doing. It's like, no, we're doing all of it. We're thinking about, oh, actually, do you know what? If we're going to do something for people who've had a stroke, well, what's the YouTube video? And should we have a landing page for it? And do we want to do a paid ad about that topic, and so on and so forth.
Interesting. And a question around user-generated content, because it can be quite a sensitive area. And I'd imagine with your audience, there's a greater sensitivity because not everyone wants to have their picture plastered everywhere, and people be concerned about like how they come across visually, externally. How do you handle it? Because equally, I can see why it's so important in terms of reassuring and convincing other people that this product is actually genuinely good. So, yeah, what is your approach to UGC, and what impact does it have for you?
Yes, you're absolutely right. One of the biggest issues with our target customer is typically she doesn't feel comfortable sharing pictures of herself on her own social channels. And the community is a huge part of this, because our customers come to learn through experience that actually when they post pictures of themselves, there is just an outpouring of love of the community and support, and they will get the most wonderful comments about how amazing they look. And it really is a safe space for them to share. And because they get such positive feedback from the community, they're then very happy for us to use those images in our own advertising, on our website, and kind of all of those things. But it is a very specific environment that they're sharing them in, and they get support. And it makes them feel amazing about sharing those images. And then when they see their own pictures in an ad, they will then, because of the customer group that we're targeting, then see these really positive comments on the ad, and so on and so forth. So for us, yes, UGC is really important, but I think because of our broader purpose, we want to challenge these stereotypes and misperceptions of older women. That when I say to people, oh, my target audience is women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, people are like, oh, are they even online? And I say, oh, women in their 70s. And they're like, oh, they have this perception that, oh, that's a grey-haired granny in a grey cardigan. And it's like, no, this is the generation of the Beatles and Mary Quant and the miniskirt. They're colourful, vibrant women with rich lives. And actually, us putting out images, not just of Trisha and, our brand ambassadors and, the makeup artists that we use, but actually of our real customers looking amazing. Just putting those images out on the internet is challenging people's perceptions of what that stereotype is.
Yeah, I've seen this in various guises. The assumption that an older person is not going to be as exciting, and you think they've lived, just because they're older, they've lived there. Everyone has a story. Everyone has something interesting, exciting, and it's a peculiar kind of arrogance, I think, to perceive that someone who's older and different to you doesn't have that energy and vibrance that you can tap into. But I do have a question around governance on it, because I do find sometimes that UGC can be used without people necessarily think about the governance piece to make sure the checks and balances are right. How do you approach it? Because you obviously want to be able to tap into that content as much as possible, but you don't want to accidentally use it in a way that's not appropriate. So how do you ensure that you're only ever using things in the right way for the customers, and you don't start like using it in marketing when all they want to do is post it on a social and just have it there?
Yeah, so what we have a really simple process that if someone posts an image in our group that we would like to use, we drop them a message and we say, please send us an email to this particular address if you're happy for us to use the image, and we will send you a gift in return to say thank you. So there is never any misunderstanding about how images are going to be used, because we have explicit permission from customers and we have then rewarded them to say thank you.
Nice. And that, I mean, it is really important, because not only from the customer transparency and being fair to them, but also from a GDPR point of view of making sure that you've got a data audit trail to validate that you've got permission from people. I'm going to pivot on around the marketing bit, because I'm really Paul talks a lot about this, because the type of brands he works with, which are very much fast growth fashion brands and lifestyle brands, top of the funnel marketing is really important because we all know that online's competitive. There are so many marketing channels, so many people shouting for attention. And a lot of people focus on the conversion side. The middle to bottom funnel are, okay, people are ready, let's do a product ad and let's get people converted. But bringing people into the brand journey, educating them, like you said about the importance of education, getting them to understand and trust who you are, to then, when they're ready to buy, to then nudge them further down. How would you approach top of the funnel marketing? How would you approach that storytelling piece to build that trusting, pull people into the journey?
Yeah, so for us, it's all about the journey for the customer. And the journey for the customer typically starts with they have a specific issue. So, for example, it starts with, how do I stop my lipstick feathering into the fine lines in my lips as I get older? Because that's what happens, is your lipstick starts to bleed into the fine lines around your lips, and it's not very flattering. So a customer's journey could be that specific issue for our clients. So they will start on Google, right, how do I stop my lipstick from bleeding the fine lines of my lips? They will then find our content, or for example, we might have an ad that is specifically around this issue that will be, running, and people will be like, oh yeah, how do I stop that issue that I'm having? So sometimes it'll be reactive. The customer will be searching for that issue and we will be there to help, or we are putting that issue out there and people are like, oh yeah, I do have that issue, I would be interested, and we will help them with that. Alongside that, we are putting out all kinds of helpful, kind of short video tutorials and things like that. So people are like, oh yeah, actually I would like to know how to open up hooded eyes. I do want to understand why you need a different blusher as you get older. I do, kind of, particularly our core demographic of women in their 70s, overpluck their eyebrows in their youth. So they need to kind of create eyebrows from scratch. So we have all of these, like, literally hundreds of different issues that we're there to help people with. Alongside that, we're putting out Trisha's story, the fact that we're not some big faceless corporation. We're a family-owned business. Trisha started it because she faced the same issues that our customers face. She's still involved in the business at 77. And we're putting out all of those UGC images, which are challenging people's perception of older women. And we see ridiculous levels of engagement on our ads because our target demographic is so overlooked by brands, is so often stereotyped by brands, that when she sees herself accurately reflected in a positive way, that ad just jumps out on their feed. They're like, who is this? What's this? What's this brand? So the engagement levels on our ads are absolutely huge just by the fact that we are creating a visual that people identify with in a positive way. So there's lots of stuff going on at the top of funnel that different things will hook in different people. And I think particularly for us specifically, since Meta's Advantage Plus shopping, that's really helped us reach a much broader audience because we can have hundreds of different creatives running at the same time, and the algorithm will learn, oh, actually, do you know what, you're interested in brow content and you're interested in eye makeup and you're interested in lipstick and so on and so forth.
Interesting. And yeah, I guess this is where the understanding of the like concerns of your audience and the drivers for purchase are critical. Then your messaging is completely on point. Okay, and now let's move on to the e-com side of things. Interesting stat you gave me when we were talking about this episode was that you've got a repeat purchase rate of about 50%. And I think if I understood correctly, then if you get people past the second purchase, on average they go on to buy like 7 times, which a lot of brands listen to be like, oh, that's great, we'd love to have that. And I know that you've got a very specific audience here. So the question that I most want to answer, and it's an area that not enough e-commerce brands really obsess over, and I know you do though, is how do you take a first-time shopper and get them to become a second-time buyer? What what are the hooks? What do you need to do? What works to get them into that second purchase pattern?
Yeah, so there are two very independent strands. The first is something I don't think enough brands think about, which is how you acquire your customer has a massive impact on how likely they are to come back and make a second purchase. That if you think you see an ad on Google Shopping because you've got a specific need, you want to buy red shoes, for example, you're like, right, that's them, that's what I want. You don't even really remember what the brand was or what the retailer was because you had a specific need and it filled it in that moment. Particularly if you're buying something like batteries, like, who knows who you bought them from, versus what we've just been talking about, where it's very content led and people come to trust us and what have you. So much of our retention is baked into our acquisition strategy. The second piece is actually, how do we, once we've got that first purchase, get people to make a second purchase? So one of the things that we do is when you buy your first product, in fact, when you buy any product from us, we will send you a tutorial video showing how to use that particular product. So that, for example, I mentioned, kind of the issue of lipstick feathering and bleeding either. So we have our lip prime. Traditionally, a lip primer is a product that would go on your lips, under your lipstick, to help it last longer. Our lip primer is specifically designed for the issue of feathering and bleeding. So it actually goes around the outside of your lips to stop that happening and keep your lip line looking sharp all day. So if you buy our lip liner, lip primer, we will be sending you a video that will show you that this isn't a product you put on your lips. This is a product you put outside your lips. So you're more likely to use that product in a way that you get the full benefit of. You're then more likely to buy that product again, and you're also more likely to trust us to buy something else from us in future. So that whole, how do we treat you after you've made the purchase, and we don't just say, oh, now you've bought from us, we're trying to sell you the next thing. It's like, no, now we're trying to help you use the thing that you bought before we're trying to sell you the next thing.
Yeah, I love that. I remember a couple of years back, I did a project with Sage, and very different product set, obviously, with accountancy software and HR software. But one of the big challenges they had was subscription drop off on someone signs up online for accountancy software, but they haven't fully understood it. They don't use it effectively and they don't perceive the value. And exactly that, the post-purchase thing, the one thing that we stopped is stop trying to sell them other stuff, because they're not yet happy, and changing it to educational, to content, to intervention of, do you need help from one of our product experts, and just check and just seeing the reducing churn in the typical 3-month break period, just by helping. It's amazing, isn't it? Help people. It's a miraculous concept, and then sell some alternatives.
I think one of the things that surprises me is actually just letting people know that one of the things we put in those post-purchase emails is look, if you're not happy, we've got the 30-day guarantee. You can send it back. If you've got any issues, you can talk to us. I remember when I built the streaming site I mentioned, we added our telephone number in a big prominent position on the homepage, and we didn't see any uptick in the number of calls to that number, but we saw our conversion double. That actually just the reassurance of, do you know what, if you have an issue, you can speak to somebody, is so reassuring that it helps with that purchase. So I think there's a lot of stuff that we think, don't put the number on, people are going to call it. It's like, well, no, just let people know if they do have a problem, you're going to help them.
Yeah, I've always found this interesting, because I do understand the dilemma companies face, because if you have a number, you need resource, and people who might not have the right coverage are going to struggle with that. But when you have a number, not advertising it, has always been to me a false economy as well, because you want to know of a problem. If you don't know of a problem, you can't do anything about it. You don't know whether it's a real problem or it's just a misunderstanding from a customer that you can set right, or it's an issue. So I fully agree, and I've seen other people do it, and I've seen it in other ways where I've done it in X intent campaign, where it's a speak to one of our, get a call back from one of our helpful customer care team or our product experts. We're here to help you. Don't worry. And you often find that fewer people leave the site because they suddenly go, oh, actually, if there's a problem, someone's going to help me. So you're right. That reassurance is important.
And I think if you don't think that you can afford to provide telephone support, I think that's actually an upstream problem. I don't think it's actually the cost of telephone support, for example. So, for example, we have an incredible 3PL partner that we use. So typically, most of our orders are dispatched within 24 hours of them being placed. So that customers, we know, because again, it's one of the things we ask in our survey, something like 80% of our customers, if not more, say that their order typically arrived when or before they expect it to. That means we get very few calls for where's my order, when is it coming, kind of all of those things. It doesn't even make our top 5 issues every month, which means that our customer care team can actually talk people through how to use our products, what product to buy, kind of all of those things. So I think it's actually that solving the upstream problem then makes providing telephone customer support entirely doable.
Yeah, I really like that point. Actually, is fix the underlying issues rather than take away a service that can really add value. I'm seeing this in in the Shopify ecosystem at the moment. There's an app called Order Editing, and one of the biggest issues people have, especially in fast fashion, where people just order and then go, oh, hang on a minute, no, wrong size. Oh, we need to add that, and you see there's constant changes. The number of customer support tickets coming in, going, right, I need to cancel this, remove this, add this. And then you're pushing the problem onto somewhere else. Whereas if you fix it by allowing people to adjust it before you ship the order. So yeah, you're right. It's definitely a good mentality. Let's talk about some of the like features and functions on the site that really add a lot of value. And I know you have a quiz, and quizzes have been used to varying degrees by different brands. I'd love to know what impact have you seen the quiz have? Is it just to help people find products, or is it really driving sales? But also, how do you make it relevant and impactful? Because understanding the user journey within a quiz to ensure that when you get the other end, the products are really relevant and not just generic recommendations is actually quite challenging.
Yes. So the quiz is an interesting one that we are 100% direct to consumer, so you can only buy our products online. So we knew it was really important for us to support our customers to find the right shades, particularly of things like lipstick, blusher, eyeshadow, those kind of things. So part of it came from our own internal expertise about how do you pick those. And so our quiz is designed around questions that you wouldn't expect. So we ask things like, does gold or silver jewelry suit you better? What color do the veins in your wrist appear? What are the predominant colors in your wardrobe? What sort of colors do you wear where people particularly give you compliments? Are you looking for something because you want a shade of lipstick because you're going out to walk the dog or going to the supermarket? Or is it because you've got a big fancy night out and a party and kind of all of those things? So we ask quite a lot of questions that we then are confident that the recommendations are going to be right. They're going to suit that person and they're going to be right for that environment. And typically we won't be like, you want this one shade of lipstick. We'll be like, these 2 or 3 lipsticks, they'll be perfect will look great on you, and they will look and they'll suit the particular occasion that you do. So we already had the advice. It was building it into the quiz format. So we were confident that our recommendations would be solid because we were already giving those recommendations to customers over the phone and all of those, and kind of all of those things. So we had already validated that data as being accurate. In terms of the business impact, this is really interesting. So we thought it would be a conversion tool. We were like, okay, this is going to be like, you're on the lipstick page, you want to know what lipstick to buy, you just need a little bit of reassurance. Actually, it's a huge top of funnel tool. It's the thing that people want to do before they decide to buy from us. And actually the engagement on it, we do get people using it, kind of just to validate they're picking the right shade. But actually, typically it's much earlier in their journey with coming to trust us, because we're giving them information about actually what will suit them and how to make decisions, not just about the makeup that's going to suit them, but what colors they should have in their wardrobe and all of those things. There's a much broader level of support that we're giving people about what's going to look good on you.
So the next one after the quiz is around personalization. Again, another buzzword. And as we discussed, sometimes sites talk about personalization and it literally is just some product recommendations stuck on a page somewhere. I'd love to know what is your approach to personalization on site? What data are you using to drive it? What technology are you using, and what does it mean for the customer?
Yeah, so when I joined the business nearly 5 years ago, when I looked at it, I could see that the thing that would make the most difference would be if we could increase our conversion rate. And when I looked at the site, we were doing what a lot of brands were doing 5 years ago. Particularly our homepage was trying to serve everyone. It was trying to think about what does everyone need and trying to do all of it on the homepage. And so actually the first thing that we started with was, if you are a new customer, you need to know our founder's story. You need to know why we exist as a business. You need kind of all that information about who we are and why you should trust us. You're a returning customer. You already know Trisha's story. You know all of that. You want to get into product much more quickly. Also, the kind of products that you're going to buy are going to be very different. That typically you will buy makeup from us as your first purchase. You're incredibly unlikely to buy skincare from us. But over time, you come to trust us, and then you're likely to buy skincare. And then when you're buying skincare, you're in a replenishment cycle. So it came fundamentally from new customers need a different experience from existing customers. So it wasn't just, the product recommendations need to be different, but what the sort of content that you see on the page needs to be different. Then we're thinking about, actually, do you know what? I know you've been looking at lipsticks, for example. Let me provide you with a video that explains why our lipsticks, the ingredients they have that will make them particularly moisturizing and kind of all of those things. So then we think about what content do we want to serve you depending on what your interests are and kind of all of those things. We then do a lot of stuff around offers, that if we've given you a specific offer via email or on an ad on Facebook, there's nothing worse than, you see an ad on Facebook with a particular offer and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy something. And then you get to the site and you've been browsing and then you can't remember what the offer was. So we make sure that we're reiterating that offer that you've come from back to you. So we actually have a lot of different sorts of personalization going on in tandem with each other. It's like, are you a new customer or an existing customer? Do we have a browsing history? Do we have a purchase history? Where have you come from today? And all of those things are kind of working in tandem with each other, not just about what products you see, but what content you see and how that page is structured.
Interesting. And from a content management point of view, if I remember right, you're using, you're on Adobe Magento.
Yes.
Is that correct? Are you using their native CMS? Do you have a third-party CMS that you use and it helps you do smarter personalization? Because native CMSs are normally quite good page builders, but they don't have the personalizations.
Yes, so we use Fresh Relevance specifically for our personalization throughout the site, and we've been using them for about 4.5 years now, because they can give us that granularity of particularly being able to design custom blocks, being like, this is a content block. This is not just like a banner or a product recommendation block. It's like, no, we're designing a custom section of the site to go for a particular customer.
Yeah, interesting. And then I have a final question around loyalty, because loyalty has come back to the fore. I think as people have seen in post-COVID e-com that it's become more challenging again, and actually we should spend more time trying to make customers loyal, which we always should have done. But I'd love to know what loyalty means to you as a brand and to the customers, because again, when we had the conversation a week or so ago, you're talking about there are 4 pillars to loyalty. Do you focus on all of them? Like how do you execute that to the customer base?
Yeah, so our 4 pillars of loyalty are all things that we've touched on in this conversation. The first is content and being useful and helpful. The second is personalization, so we're tailoring the site experience to what you need. The third is our community. So that is both our formal Facebook community, but also our customers feel like they're part of a wider community that Trisha writes a weekly blog that people feedback on. They meet up in person and all of these things. So, the community piece is really crucial, whether you're literally part of our formal community, or you just feel like you're able to have a conversation with other customers on a particular topic. And the fourth is listening to our customers and using that data to delight our customers, to anticipate their needs and to drive advocacy.
And how do you see rewards? Because the one thing that Paul and I talked about this recently, and that we're seeing an evolution from looking at basically what I call points and prizes to a more strategic lens, where actually people don't just want some money off. Yes, that's helpful, and discounts are nice to reward people, but things like unique access to, or early access to things that other customers can't get, or whether it's unique events that other customers don't have access to, or content that is only available for certain customer segments. There are lots of different ways that we're seeing people reward customers that isn't just about money or product related. How do you go? Do you do anything beyond the product side? Is all of the content piece woven in as well?
Yeah, so I think to a certain extent, the content is, a reward for a relationship that we will continue to find. We will continue to supply content. I think also the fact that our most loyal customers know that we have this quarterly customer survey, and it isn't just something that we ask a bunch of questions. They'll then see that, we developed that particular product, we launched that shade, we listened to you. And I think often those things are actually more important to customers, that they feel valued. But specifically on the more kind of reward type thing, one of the things that we do is we don't have different offers for new customers versus existing. And our entire offer strategy is based around the concept of variable reward, particularly like Nir Eyal's book, Hooked. He talks about this idea of variable reward being quite crucial to building kind of habit forming products. And so what we do is that every week we have a different offer on our site. So it's typically on a different product or product area. So we give away free products. We obviously have discounts on specific products and product areas and kind of all of those things. And there is a specific cadence that our regular customers know that those offers will start on a Sunday with Trisha's blog, which comes out Sunday, which is something else they really, really value, and kind of all of those things. And they will run until Saturday night, and then it will change again the previous week. So we are rewarding them, that they know that there's always going to be some kind of great offer or discount, but they also know that it's going to change. So, what I'm thinking about refilling my lipstick. What's the offer this week? Is it on lipstick? It creates a little bit of interest and engagement and kind of all of those things. But yeah, I am fundamentally deeply skeptical of the traditional kind of points-based reward type thing, that I think it just rewards people who would have bought anyway. And I don't think, fundamentally, I think it's really important to have that depth of feeling and that connection with the customer. And that's what drives true loyalty and advocacy. So we know that I think it's about 75% of our customers have recommended us to someone. So not the NPS score in some hypothetical situation, they have actually recommended us to somebody, and that conversation has typically taken place in person. That kind of advocacy is so powerful, rather than kind of the traditional kind of recommend a friend type scheme. So a lot of things that we do are actually about what is the underlying behavior you want to generate, and how do you truly generate that, rather than how do you use kind of financial incentives to, make people do what you want them to do.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear say about you reward the new and existing customers the same, because it's the polar opposite of the insurance industry, which is, do you know what, you're an existing customer, a loyal customer, we're going to put you on the crappiest tariff rate possible and try and get as much out as you can, and then you're going to have to shift every year, which is always blown my mind, is the worst thing for customer experience, and a constant need to acquire people, and therefore constant need to add discount to acquire. So it's really nice to hear that it simplifies it as well, as good people know that there is an offer. Yeah. And they can take advantage of it. And I like the cadence as well, because you set the expectation, then there's no surprises. And then you also don't get that horrible bit of someone, and you see this in businesses that are very tactical and they're discounting, where someone misses out and then they bought and they realize there was a discount 2 days ago, and then they write in and complain saying, why have I had to pay extra? And you get into this really awkward cycle of when do you indulge that and when do you say, no, sorry, that you're out of offer. That's the end of the questions. I really enjoy it. Do you know what? I've got hundreds more in my head, but I appreciate that you are a very busy person with a lot of stuff to do. Look, I really, really appreciate you coming on, Janis. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, James. I really appreciate it.
And for everyone who's listening, do go and check out the site, have a look around, get to know the brand a bit better. And if you've got any questions about this episode, do reach out and let me know.
You're listening to the Inside Commerce podcast, hosted by experienced consultants James Gerd and Paul Rogers. Inside Commerce is your fast track to digital knowledge, featuring interviews with leading e-commerce retailers, industry thought leaders, and the C-suite of key tech companies to explore the latest in digital strategy, customer experience, and tech. Discover what the latest trends really mean and get practical advice based on experience to help fine-tune your e-commerce strategy and tech stack. Follow us on LinkedIn and reach out to James or Paul if you'd like to discuss an e-commerce project. We hope you enjoy the latest episode.